From the point of view of those that are providing products and services in this industry to employers, organisations up and down the country, I think the focus of, there are many problems obviously, but the focus of the problem is actually in the distribution of these products and services. And if we analyse that area where employers receive and process the distribution of these pension benefits, other reward products, we can see three different problems. The first one is that we're all facing the difficulty of getting data about the employee accurately, efficiently, in a timely manner into the hands of the product and service provider. So that's what you might refer to as an onboarding problem that we all have. And for some products, that's not just a one-off, that's a multiple times in a month or in a year that challenge is faced. The second problem is the fact that all of the whole distribution system that we're using has to, by definition, interface in with the actual product providers, service providers' own systems, or it may have to interface with other people, other companies' systems, such as payroll or some such, or between payroll and pension, or between pension and benefit management companies. So all of these companies have an integration problem because it is a challenge to move the data, move the information, move the important elements that drive the product and service between those multiple parties. I think the third area operationally that is challenging the industry at the moment is the ability to provide platforms as opposed to one-off solutions to particular situations for particular consumers. And obviously in the whole of industry, in the whole of the global economy, we are seeing platforms emerging, which essentially are places where many things are done for many customers, with many players participating within that platform. And I think those are the three areas: onboarding, integration, and the presence of platforms in the industry. Well, the reality is that not only has recently, as probably we all know, the government stepped into the pensions market and put through a lot of change, and there are many different aspects of that change, but the most important I think aspect that we're all conscious of is the fact that they are driving revenues down, or at least they're driving down the ability to charge the kinds of costs that used to be chargeable only a couple of years ago, and that's just in the pensions industry. But if you look at the lifespan of products and services in this area over the last 10-15 years, you will be able to graph that the internal costs of employers in providing these products and services to their employees has ironically gone up over the last 10-15 years, not gone down. And I think what is happening now is that the corporations, the organisations that are consuming these products and services, are starting to say, well, hang on a minute, everywhere else costs are going down, but here costs are still going up. And why is that? What's happening? Well, that's a very interesting question, and I suppose there are a number of different ways of answering it. One way is that actually this has been quite a rich sector, so there's been quite a lot of money and it hasn't mattered, certainly not for the product providers. I think the second aspect of it is that on a level, quite a lot of this expenditure has gone through HR departments, and HR departments haven't necessarily been on the critical path as regards an assessment of the costs that they have been consuming. And to put a slightly different insight into that, the costs that have been increasing have been costs that are typically experienced within the IT department of those organisations, not within the HR department. So you've got this slightly challenging issue that the HR department may be procuring and consuming these products and services whilst being unaware of the additional costs that they're generating under the IT services function of their own company. I think what needs to change in this industry is that we actually all have to take technology a bit more seriously. And I know that's a slightly tongue-in-cheek statement, but the reality is that there are quite a lot of us who want to not have to think about technology. Why isn't technology just like my iPhone? Why can't I simply consume the product and service without having to understand how? And I don't understand how the iPhone works. So, and I consume things quite successfully through my iPhone. Why isn't it like that? And the problem is that we haven't got to the happy state whereby after billions of investment from Apple, we have these platforms with these very smooth technologies in place. That doesn't exist in our industry. The only way we're going to drive these technologies into the industry is by exercising quite focused technology selection programs where we as consumers in the HR functions, in the intermediaries that are purchasing these solutions, that they start to ask the kind of challenging questions that get asked in a car manufacturing company or other industry sectors where the selection of technology is very much seen as your job if you happen to use that technology. Sadly, no. And the reason why it isn't is because good technology only works within the right context. And the very important and somewhat obvious statement I think we all understand is that if you automate a bad process, all you get is a very expensively automated bad process. So one of the fundamental areas of what you might refer to as the reward function and the reward pension supply chain is that it needs to undergo a significant re-engineering exercise. And the interesting thing about this particular area of our industry is it is one of the very few areas in our economy that has not been re-engineered. If you look back to the 90s, there was significant re-engineering carried out across many industries and most business functions. But the one business function that was left alone was the reward function and the reward function supply chain. And the reason for that was partly because the reward function is not really an internal function. It's a function that exists through all of its linkages with many, many other external suppliers. It's thus quite a unique and very difficult function to re-engineer, and it requires you to understand the end-to-end supply chain of the industry, and as a kind of a matter of fact, that's quite a difficult thing to achieve, and it requires many players to come together and share information and understanding, and we're still working on that challenge. I think we need to look to America as we often do perhaps for these sorts of things, and the trend in America is the emergence of intermediary platforms that provide products and services to multiple consumers, multiple organisations, many obviously employees, and secure those products and services from many organisations that are manufacturing, providing pensions, life insurance, child vouchers, whatever it might be. So you're ending up in America with the situation where these platforms are integrating the products and services from the industry and distributing those products and services to the consumers in a corporate marketplace, not obviously an individual consumer marketplace. I think they should go and ask their consultants and their advisors Those are the people who are sitting in the middle of these relationships, this supply chain that we've been talking about. They're the people who need to become much more familiar with technology and indeed begin to introduce the kinds of technology that we've been talking about in order to increase the level of efficiency and automation in this industry in the integrated way that is required. So I challenge your advisor, challenge your consultant, and get them to come in and look at your processes and help you.